But this one here is meant for the Sony. It plugs into a hot shoe, no cables, no mess, and it just works. So that's a review of accessories that you really need if you're going to have this camera to really make it 100% functional. Okay, I've had the Sony ZV1 for a while now, and while you start using the camera, you start thinking about accessories that you could buy to make this camera more serviceable for what you're going to be using it for. So I came up with some products that I've located that are pretty much essential to have with the Sony ZV1. The first item I was thinking about getting at one time was the small rig cage, and that's a cage that wraps around this camera, and what it does, that allows you access to the battery if it's on a tripod, and it has a cold shoe mount all around it, so you could mount additional accessories because we only have one cold shoe on the ZV1. The problem with the small rig cage is that it adds bulk to the camera, and the reason why you purchased the ZV1 is for its compactness and for you to be able to stick it in your pocket. And once you put the small rig cage around it, it becomes quite bulky. So I decided against it. Instead of small rig cage, I got this Neewer. It's a metal bracket hand grip for the ZV1. And it's basically this item here. It's made out of aluminum. And what this does is that it screws to the bottom of the ZV1. And then it gives you access to the battery, just like the small rig cage, but it's lots smaller. It adds practically no bulk to the camera, and it weighs about an ounce. What this also does is that it also gives you a cold shoe mount right here. And the cold shoe mount is nice because it also rotates around. So you could put on accessories like a microphone or light and still use it in a compact form. This is one item to get. It's from Neewer. You know, they're relatively inexpensive, but it makes this thing a lot more usable, especially if you have it on a tripod or a selfie stick. Second thing actually we talked about is a light. This is a light, VIJIM LVL81 bicolor full light. So it gives you enough illumination because the ZV1 has no light for photography or video recording. This gives you that option. It's very small, light, and compact, and it gives you the two different color LED lights, the white and the orange. So you can have a cold or warm color, and you can mix and match by using this dial on the back. So this is a very handy accessory. Again, it's relatively inexpensive. It's probably under $20. And this thing also gives you cold shoe mounts on 3 different sides. So you could actually have this light sitting on top of the camera, and then you could put a microphone on top of it. Next thing is pretty handy to get with the ZV1 is a selfie stick. Because when you set this active stabilization on, it tends to crop the image a little bit. So a lot of people buy selfie sticks so you can extend it out. This one here is from Ulanzi, and it's the model MT16. Now, when you're searching for accessories for the Sony camera, and you're reading reviews on the Sony camera, read the latest reviews out there for accessories and for the camera itself, because things changed over time, and then you may be misinformed what's happening to the camera itself as far as software and firmware updates or in accessories. Like when I first hunting for a selfie stick or a small tripod, these arms fold out so they become a tripod. The one that everybody was recommending at that time was the Ulanzi MT16, which is fine. It's a selfie stick. You're able to extend it out. It alleviates some of that cropness of the active stabilization, so it gives you a wider field of view. The problem with that was that if I were to go by what other people were buying at that point, the MT08, you would not notice that Ulanzi has superseded that with the MT16. And what the MT16 does over the MT08 is it gives you a cold shoe mount, which is nice. But what it also does is that it also extended this thing out further. The MT08 was okay, but a lot of people felt that they could use another inch or so. But this solves that problem. Once you mount this thing, your camera on this, it's going to give you more than enough extension to get you the right angle review as you're walking and talking. So, like it says, always look for the latest reviews on accessories. The MT16 is the one that's the practical size. They have like an MT34 and 44s, and that's basically long extension, but long extension is not what you pretty much would need, as it's going to become heavy when you start extending the items out. It gets slimmer and slimmer, so it becomes a less stabilized. Unless you're going to need it for a worktop tripod, it's going to give you a little more extension and height. But usually we have full-size tripods for studio work. So the MT16 is a must-have, and this is right around 20 some odd dollars. Next item, if you're more serious about vlogging, is naturally the gimbal. And the most popular gimbal out there right now is the Crane M2. And it's a very nice gimbal. It's compact in size, it's not heavy, and it works excellent with the ZV1. Now the problem with gimbals is a lot of people are intimidated with setting up a gimbal, and it's actually fairly easy once you understand what the gimbal is actually doing. The gimbal is trying to stabilize the camera on 3 axes, so tilt, forward, and side motions. And once you understand what you're trying to accomplish with the gimbal, you could adjust the 3 adjustments for that to counteract the movement of the camera. And it's pretty easy. Now I'll do a video on that, on the theory behind the gimbal and how to set it up. Once you understand what the gimbal is trying to do, it becomes less intimidating, and setting it up becomes pretty easy. But the gimbal is a must-have if you're doing walking and movement, or if you're doing actually like movie type of video recording. It really stabilizes the picture. The active stabilization on the Sonys, it's only so-so. Next one to get is probably a lav mic. So Sony just released this year. This is relatively new. There's not too many reviews on it, but it works great. I mean, you can hook this directly into the camera, pin this on yourself, and you're great. It's stereo, omnidirectional, so it's going to pick up sound from both sides, which may or may not be a good idea. It pivots, so that depends on how you mount this on your clothing, you could keep it level. Now, if you're in a noisy environment, or you want more of a shotgun type of mic, you could just record on one channel and use the camera or all of your software to eliminate the second channel. This way you have pretty much a shotgun mic up to your mouth. But this is relatively inexpensive, surprisingly. It's right around in the $20 range, or $30 range. And for a lav mic, it sounds excellent. I mean, it's surprising a lot of reviewers out there how good this mic actually is. So this is one thing to pick up, so that you could have a microphone more closely to you, so you pick up more your voice and less of the background noise. Next item that's on my list is actually the wireless. Sony just released this not too long ago. It's the wireless ECM W2BT. So it worked off of Bluetooth. It has a pretty good range of 600 feet too, as long as there's nothing between the receiver. So this is the receiver on the mic, and this is the transmitter. So this is what you pin on yourself as the lav mic. Comes with a dead cat on it that's removable. And then with this transmitter, it's got a input here for your lav mic. So if you don't want this thing pinned on your collar, or it's too bulky looking, put this on your belt, and the lav mic up on your collar. So this is the transmitter section. It's Bluetooth. It links instantly with the receiver, and you could control the attenuation. I keep it at minus 20 dBs to keep it from clipping. This is the receiving end. And what's interesting about this is that you could set it for the transmitter or your lav. It's going to send an audio signal to this receiver. Receiver is directly connected to the hot shoe here on the Sony ZV1. So we need no cables to hook this into the camera. It goes through this hot shoe directly into the camera. This is only for audio, so it doesn't power this portion at all. But that's good enough. I mean, long life battery on this thing. But you can also set it for mixing, so you can use it as a dual transmitter or dual lav mic. So you got one here that you want to use to talk, or your subject matter could speak into, and you can use this one for you to talk into. So if you're doing an interview, you can have two microphones set up. And then you can see that this one here comes with a clip here so that you can rest this on the table and use it as a mic that way. This comes off, and then what use this thing is to store this and this together, and this portion will slide on here so you can have one handy storage solution. Another thing you could do with this is that you can set it just for receiver only. So if just using this mic just to walk around and talk with the camera, you just need this. Or you could remove this and use the built-in mic with the hot shoe, with the dead cat. That's fine too. But I find that the audio portion of this sounds better than what we have coming in from the camera. So this wireless microphone, this is meant for Sony. I mean, Rhodes has a nice one out there. Duffy's got one. But this one here is meant for the Sony. It plugs into a hot shoe, no cables, no mess, and it just works. So, well, here's some additional items that we purchased. You're gonna need extra battery packs. As you can see, the Sony batteries are kind of small, so they don't last long when you'll be doing any type of recording. So you need to have extra batteries. The one that is favored by a lot of people is this one here from Newmowa, and we got this thing on Amazon. So you get a 3-pack, relatively inexpensive, right around 20 bucks, and it's well worth it. You know, you got 2 ways of charging. You got the micro, and then you got the Type C. So this will recharge while you're in the car, or if you're carrying a power pack. It works fine, charges up pretty quickly, and these batteries do not get as long as a life as the Sony does, but it's pretty close. We're only talking about a few minutes apart, so they work fine, no issues with them. So you need extra battery packs for sure. Next is a option that you may want to consider, and that's a screen protector. This one here works great. We purchased this on Amazon too, and they communicate with you pretty good. So if you have any issues, they get right back to you. And then what's nice about them is that they send you some extra goodies. You got a micro SD adapter there, and they give you a bubble balance. This goes on your hot shoe of your camera or your cold shoe. And same with this, just little decorative items and kind of cute things. You're never going to use them. You may use the bubble balance though. I can see where that comes in handy. So you may want to put a screen protector on your camera. Or the odds of breaking it is not that great. But if you're clumsy or something happens in your camera bag, you don't want to get scratched up. Get one of these things. It's tempered glass, works just fine. Last thing to consider will be a hand strap. This is a hand strap that has a quick disconnect on it. So you hook it up to the camera when you're just going around doing some photography shooting, so you don't want to accidentally drop your camera as you're walking around. And you take it off for any type of video recording, because sometimes these straps have a tendency of flapping in front of the camera lens. So it's a good investment. It's inexpensive, it's like $10, $15. This is JJC out of Amazon. So, just be sure to get the quick disconnect one so you could unclip it and clip it out back on quickly. That's my review of accessories that I decided that you really need if you're going to have this camera to really make it 100% functional. The camera itself is great. It's great by itself, but all these options just make life a little bit easier if you're doing any type of recording. So I hope you liked the video, and please subscribe. And what I'll do is that I'll run some tests on the wireless mic and the Lav mic, and then I'll do the demo on the Crane M2 gimbal. Thank you for watching.